We take important source material, the classics, the complex stuff, and break it down for you.
Get you the critical knowledge you need.
Exactly. And today, wow, we're cracking open a big one. Dale Carnegie's 1936 masterpiece, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
A book that sold, over 30 million copies? It's just monumental. Still is.
It really is. It came out during the Great Depression, which kind of begs the question.
How can it possibly still be relevant? I mean, nearly a century later in our world of social media, content everywhere, how does it hold up?
That's exactly what we want to dig into. We need to explore, what was happening in 1936 that made his approach so revolutionary.
Right, and distill those core principles. Are they really timeless?
Yeah. And tackle the big criticism, too, is this whole thing just manipulation.
Yeah, is it genuine or just techniques? And then how are people adapting these ideas for today, for the digital age? That's the mission.
Okay, so let's start with Carnegie himself. Dale Carnegie, originally. His background is pretty crucial, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You can't understand the book without understanding him. He came from serious hardship. Poor farm boy in Missouri, faced economic failure, personal setbacks.
Yeah, I read he knew struggle intimately. Family lost money. He battled depression, dropped out of college. Even his novel got rejected.
Blizzard, yeah. And he wasn't an overnight success. He got turned down constantly.
Trying to get started in New York, right?
Yeah.
Acting didn't work out.
Nope. Then he wanted to teach public speaking, but Columbia and NYU both said no.
So he ends up at a YMCA in Harlem.
Asking for just $2 a session. Even then, the YMCA folks weren't sure anyone would show up, so they only offered him a percentage of the profits.
But then it took off massively. He was making, $30 a session pretty quickly.
Huge success. And that whole journey, the struggle, the rejection, them figuring it out, that shaped everything. He wasn't some academic talking down. He was sharing what worked from experience.
Speaking directly to people who were probably feeling just as desperate as he once had.
Exactly. Think about 1936 America. The Depression was just brutal.
The stats are staggering. Something like 38% of families below the poverty line. 1 in 4 on relief.
People were desperate, not just for jobs, but for any kind of edge, any skills to navigate this really tough changing world.
And it wasn't just the economy, right? Society itself was changing so fast.
Oh, massively. Huge urbanization. Think about New York City alone, jumping from maybe 125,000 people in 1820 to over 5 million by 1910.
Wow. So you went from knowing everyone in your town to being completely anonymous in this giant city.
Right. You needed new ways to connect, to stand out, just to survive socially and professionally.
And the self-help books before Carnegie, they weren't really addressing that need, were they?
Not at all. You had high-minded philosophy, Emerson, Ruskin, or these incredibly detailed etiquette guides.
Like which fork to use. Important, maybe, but not quite addressing the core problem of connecting with people.
Exactly. Carnegie just cut through all that. He offered simple, practical, actionable stuff, things you could actually do. Conversational tone, stories. It was all about empowering people with interpersonal skills.
Focused on behavior, you said.
Yeah.
And that links back to a specific philosophical idea he borrowed.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It comes from William James, the psychologist and philosopher.
Okay.
Jones suggested that emotion often follows action. It's not always that we feel happy and then smile. Sometimes we smile, and that makes us feel happier.
So you can control the action, and the feeling sort of catches up.
Precisely. Carnegie took that and ran with it. He told people, act confident, act friendly, adopt these positive behaviors, and the feelings, the moods you want, they'll actually follow.
So the whole system is kind of built on this action-first idea, like a practical, secular golden rule.
That's a great way to put it. And it's all grounded in his view of human nature. He famously said, we're creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity.
Doesn't sound too flattering.
No, but maybe realistic. His point was, if that's true, then the key to dealing with people isn't logic, it's understanding their emotional perspective, seeing things from their angle.
Okay, let's dive into those core principles then. The famous 6 ways to make people like you. They seem so simple on the surface. Number 1, become genuinely interested in other people.
Sounds easy, right? But it's maybe the hardest. We are just wired to be self-focused.
He had that statistic, didn't he, about phone calls?
Yeah, amazing. A study of 500 calls, and the word I was used almost 4,000 times. We just talk about ourselves constantly.
So his point was, flip that script, focus your energy outwards.
Right. He said you'd make more friends in 2 months by being interested in others than in 2 years trying to get others interested in you. It requires deliberate effort.
Is there one example that really embodies this for you?
It's got to be Theodore Roosevelt. That story about his valet is just perfect.
The valet's wife wanted to see a specific bird.
A bobwhite quail, yeah. She mentioned it once. Later, Roosevelt actually called her to tell her where she could find one near their home.
Wow, that's real attention to detail for someone completely outside his usual sphere.
Exactly. That level of genuine specific interest, that builds incredible loyalty. It shows you actually listened and cared.
That small effort has huge impact. Okay, principle number 2, smile.
Simple, visual, powerful. It's a nonverbal signal. I like you. I'm happy to see you. Instant connection.
And if you don't feel like smiling, back to William James.
Back to William James. Force it if you have to. Whistle, hum, sing, act happy. The physical action can actually shift your mood. Seems weird, but there's something to it.
Principle 3 feels really fundamental. Remember and use a person's name.
Oh, absolutely. Carnegie called it the sweetest, most important sound. And it's true, isn't it?
It really is. When someone uses your name correctly, easily, it feels like a small compliment. Like you matter.
And the opposite, forgetting it, mangling it, feels like a slight. It says, you're not important enough for me to remember this basic thing about you. Using the name acknowledges their whole identity.
Then 4 and 5 seem linked. Be a good listener and talk in terms of the other person's interests.
It's definitely linked. They're about building rapport, listen, and really encouraging someone to talk about themselves. Carnegie called that one of the highest compliments you can pay.
Because most people just want to talk, not listen.
Exactly. So if you become a good listener, you become rare, valuable. And then talking about their interests, that's hitting them where they live. You're affirming what they care about most. That's the royal road to a person's heart, as he put it.
Which leads to the last one, number 6. And this one feels tricky. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. What's the danger here?
The danger is flattery. Big difference. Flattery is insincere. It's usually selfish. You're saying it to get something. Sincere appreciation is genuine. It comes from actually noticing and valuing something about the other person.
So he wasn't saying be fake. He was saying actively look for the good and then acknowledge it.
Exactly. Find something you can honestly admire or appreciate and then say it.
Okay, so those 6 principles are about building that initial liking, that rapport. But Carnegie's book title also includes influence people. How did he suggest turning that rapport into actual influence, getting people on board with your ideas?
Right. Step 2, and this is where his ideas get really counterintuitive for some. It's about radical diplomacy. His core rule here is the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it entirely.
Avoid arguments. But how do you persuade anyone if you avoid disagreement? What if someone is just plain wrong?
Yeah, that's the immediate reaction. His point is that arguing, directly confronting, telling someone you're wrong, it just puts their back up. It triggers that pride and vanity he talked about, makes them defensive, and then they'll never change their mind, even if you logically win.
So you win the battle, lose the war.
Pretty much. You might prove your point, but you damage the relationship and create resentment. He's focused on influencing people without that collateral damage.
He used historical examples for this too, right?
Yeah.
Like Horace Greeley criticizing Lincoln.
Yeah, Greeley wrote this scathing public letter, really harsh, attacking Lincoln's policies.
And did it work? Did Lincoln change course?
Not one bit. It just entrenched Lincoln's position. Contrast that with someone like Benjamin Franklin,
Who was known for being incredibly diplomatic.
Exactly. Franklin deliberately avoided using absolute words like certainly or undoubtedly. Instead, he'd use softer phrases like, I apprehend, or it appears to me at present, or I imagine it to be so-and-so.
So he's leaving room for discussion, signaling respect for the other person's view.
Precisely. It wasn't about being weak. It was about being smart. It showed he was open to being wrong himself, willing to learn, and respected the other person's intelligence. That makes people much more receptive to your actual points.
It's all about managing the ego, the emotion first.
You got it. Admit you might be wrong too. Try honestly to see their point of view. They're not crazy. They just have a different perspective based on their own experiences.
Okay, but this leads directly into the biggest modern critique, doesn't it? That this whole approach encourages being a spineless people pleaser. If you never argue, never criticize, never say you're wrong, aren't you just avoiding necessary conflict?
That's the critique, absolutely. And it's understandable if you take the principles as rules for all interactions, especially deep, trusted relationships.
So the context matters.
Hugely. Remember the title. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's often about navigating casual acquaintances, business dealings, situations where your primary goal is cooperation or persuasion, not necessarily deep, brutal honesty.
Because unsolicited criticism, even if well-intentioned, rarely lands well unless there's already a strong foundation of trust.
Exactly. Carnegie knew that criticism, even gentle feedback, stings that precious pride. So his advice is essentially, if you need to influence someone now or build a positive connection quickly, maybe save the harsh truths for another time or find a way for them to discover the flaw themselves.
But what about leadership? Surely leaders need to give feedback, point out mistakes.
They do, but even there, Carnegie advised extreme care. His principles for leaders were incredibly subtle.
Like calling attention to mistakes indirectly.
Yes. Maybe praise what was done right first. Or, even better, talk about your own past mistakes before you even hint at criticizing theirs.
That diffuses the tension, makes the leader seem human, relatable.
Right. It lets the other person save face. It makes the correction feel less like an attack and more like a collaborative adjustment. Always protect the other person's dignity.
It all comes back to managing the creature of emotion. But the way we interact with those creatures has fundamentally changed since 1936.
Oh, completely. Carnegie's world was face-to-face conversation, real-time interaction, our world. It's increasingly mediated by screens, by content, by digital platforms.
The whole dynamic is different. You don't have the same immediate feedback.
Exactly. Your audience online is often invisible. They're distracted. You're competing with a million other things for their attention, trying to make them feel important and understood through a tweet or a blog post. That's a whole new ballgame.
So how do these principles translate? How are people building relationships through content now?
Well, thinkers looking at this suggest some new principles, kind of updating Carnegie for the digital age. The first big one is about sharing your inside story, not just your highlights, meaning share the struggles, the challenges, the learning process, not just the polished results, the trophy wall.
Vulnerability, authenticity.
Right. Just showing off successes tends to make people skeptical or even resentful. Sharing the messy parts, the emotional labor involved, that builds connection and trust. Think Brené Brown.
Her TED Talk on vulnerability, yeah, it exploded because she shared her own struggle with the research.
Exactly. She didn't just present data, she presented her human experience with the data. That resonated.
Okay, so inside story over trophy wall. What's next?
Realizing that online communication isn't really a conversation in the old sense, it's more like a presentation or a prepared speech.
Because you don't get that immediate back and forth, the body language cues.
Precisely. So you need to prepare more. Your content, your posts, they need to be crafted to reflect your most authentic self right from the start, because you don't get as many chances to adjust on the fly. Digital authenticity often requires more forethought, not less.
And the lack of real-time feedback creates another problem, right? The feedback loop is broken.
Totally broken, or at least warped. You get likes, shares, maybe comments, but it's not the rich data you get from a face-to-face interaction.
So you can easily misinterpret things or get stuck in an echo chamber.
Absolutely. That means you have to actively cultivate digital self-awareness. You can't just rely on the metrics. You need to consciously fight delusion, maybe actively solicit real feedback, ask people what they need, not just watch the clicks.
And then there's the sheer noise, getting noticed at all.
Which leads to another key principle. Focus on the headline. If Carnegie said the name is the sweetest sound, today the headline is probably the most important site.
It's the gateway. If the headline doesn't grab them,
they're gone. The packaging of your idea is critical. Your headline, your first sentence, they have to immediately signal value and relevance to the reader. That's Carnegie's talk in terms of their interests, but applied to how you frame your content.
Makes sense. And the final piece, how does it all tie together?
It loops back beautifully to Carnegie's core. Communicate like a friend.
Drop the labels, customer, audience member, whatever.
Yeah, stop thinking mass audience. Start thinking kindred spirits. Treat every interaction, every piece of content with the genuine interest, kindness, and integrity you'd show a friend. Connection happens deeply with the right people, not broadly with everyone. The desire to feel seen and important hasn't changed, just the tools we use.
So wrapping this up, the reason How to Win Friends and Influence People indoors, it's not really about the specific tactics like whistling, is it?
Not fundamentally. It's about the underlying truth he tapped into. We are emotional creatures. We desperately want to feel important, valued, understood.
And his principles, Whether the 1936 versions or these modern adaptations, they work because they address that core human need first.
Exactly. They bypass pure logic and speak to our feelings, our pride, our vanity, our desire for connection. Whether you're selling something, sharing an idea, or just trying to build a relationship, recognizing the other person's importance is step one.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with something to chew on. Thinking back to that William James idea, emotion follows action.
Right, the idea that behavior can shape feeling.
What's one specific, maybe slightly uncomfortable or counterintuitive action you could take this week, in person or online, to genuinely make someone else feel important?
Maybe it's digging up a small detail someone mentioned, like Roosevelt did, or consciously softening your language in an email, like Franklin. Could be anything.
Just pick one action, commit to it, see what happens, see if that connection, that positive feeling, follows the deliberate behavior.
A little Carnegie experiment for the week.
That was the deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.